Wow. Wow. Auto Tomeria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. How you doing? Happy new month.
All is well, thank you. And I'm happy to hear that you are blessed too.
Wow, amazing. You're welcome to the podcast, the One Student, One Book, One Author Mantra, the Global Readers Circle, the ultimate podcast designed to use your good office and authority as an author to inspire and motivate a committed reader out of every global person, especially the student. I'm so humbled and honored to have you on the talk show. I'm sure you're ready to tell us about yourself.
And you're welcome, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I am excited to be here. I am an author. I'm an inspirational slash motivational speaker, and I like to think of myself as a thought leader who really just believes that
Wow.
everyone has a story worth sharing. And
Wow.
when I think about my life and different experience, I have over 25 years of diverse industry experience across nonprofits, for profit companies,
Wow.
and now higher education. So I am
Wow.
excited to share my story, my background, and my passion to really inspire individuals to embrace confidence, purpose, and faith in their lives.
Wow, wow, amazing, amazing. So, Auto Tomeria, let's talk about growing up. How was growing up like for you? Were you born into this home where reading was the order of the day? What inspired your journey to become a lifelong learner?
That is a great question, Guardian, especially when I think about growing up. My mom, she would purchase books for me and she would also read to me. So I really did love reading. And in fact, when I was a kid, she purchased encyclopedias for me. And I used to sit and read encyclopedias to learn about things all around the world. And I would create tests for myself to see how much information I could recall. So I remember getting excited about book clubs and the book fairs at my school and just finding opportunities to read and learn more and just expanding my knowledge.
Wow, wow, wow. So, let's talk about your reading lifestyle. So, at what point to see this was the point where it really became very for me, like I was not going to stop.
And for a moment there, I think I lost you. I heard you're not going to stop, but I think I missed the beginning of the question.
Okay, I said, at what point did you make reading an everyday habit? Like when you became very intentional about being a lifelong learner?
That's a great question because I would say now what I find is that, and maybe I'll say in middle school is probably where I really developed a love for reading. And there was a book that I read called False Secrets by Candy Dawson Boyd. And it was a book
Mm,
about young ladies at their first year at a performing arts junior high school. And so I was in middle
mm,
school, but that book really touched me because it highlighted the fact that a young woman, a young African American girl, explored racial differences and
mm.
she was hiding her own secrets, but it really talked through how she was able to overcome. And that was a book that always stuck with me. And then from there, I would say I started reading more novels and some fiction. I had my teen Bible and things like that. So I would read. But I really think that that book inspired me to really embrace the arts and to just continue enjoying reading. Because I read as a child, but I will say that that really did make a difference reading that
Wow,
book.
wow, wow, amazing, amazing. So I love to think that you should have read so much to write your Facebook. So let's take. I'd like you to take us into your book. When did you do your face publication?
So, great question. Ironically, I started blogging in 2010. And actually, it may have been even before that. I started blogging with the goal of writing a book. So, I encourage anyone who wants to write a book to write down your story, whether it's on a piece of paper or it's on
Mm,
Facebook, it's on the internet, wherever it is. But I started using that as a journal. So, I used to journal as a kid. I said I wanted to write a book. I didn't know when I would do it, but I started writing poetry. I started writing blog posts, and
mm,
those were kind of the catalyst for the books that I released last year. So in
wow.
2023, I released three titles. The first was released in March of last year, which was Live Happy,
Wow.
Free, and Unapologetically. And that's a
Mm,
7-day digital devotional that's free on my website, Tomeria.com. And then I released a second one called Sins Salvation is the New Sexy. And that book
wow.
is from hot girl to God's girl, but it's a transformative
Mm,
self help book that challenges societal norms and really encourages readers, regardless if it's um, whoever it is. It really encourages
yeah.
them to embrace their faith, rediscover their self worth, and lead a purposeful life. Because as we
Wow.
know, temptation is trendy, but it's temporary.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I
Wow.
released that on Amazon. It's available in both print and digital. And then I have the last book that I released last year, which is While You Wait, Activating Your Faith, which is based on some of those blog posts from over a decade ago. And
Wow.
that particular book really just gives people a jump start on their faith, and it helps to offer a beacon of light amid chaos in today's world. So sometimes people may not finish reading a book, but I figured if I could make it bite sized and give short stories to help illustrate points, it'll really help encourage people to keep going in the midst of life. So I have those three
Mm,
titles that I finally authored last year. And I also have written children's books, but they're not released yet. So I just continue to write. I write every single day and I save everything because much like for anyone that is really avid about reading their Bible, it tells us in Habakkuk to write the vision and make it plain. And
yeah.
the Bible has been, I will say, something that I read on a daily basis now because it really does help push me forward and fuel me to keep going.
Wow. 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 I'm so humbled. I'm so humbled. Your story is so amazing, and your journey into authorhood is an impacting journey. Thank you very much for bringing out the golden pen in you. We appreciate this effort.
You're welcome and thank you.
Okay, we get to the point on the podcast where you would have to name 10 books that would stay with you. So, before we go into that part of the show, I like to ask you for our audience, on the occasion of World Book Day, we have a theme: read your way up. Read your way up. So I'd like you to talk about the theme of this year's World Book Day. Would you say, as a person, the life you're currently reading, would you say that it has been all of the books you read, all of the authors you've met, all of the fine mind people that you've combined ideas with? And do you see yourself giving someone this advice?
That's a great question. And I like what you stated, read your way up. I would say that I find
Or ask
inspiration.
people to share it with a friend and move their way up.
Okay, you said share what I would share with a friend.
Yeah, like share a review with a friend. Like it's not just enough for you to read the book. You should read the book and obviously get to share a review.
Yes. I really like that. And I will say that I do tend to share like what I'm reading with individuals, even if it's a short story. Sometimes I read blog posts, magazine articles, and then the books that I read, sometimes I'll share it in the form of a review, but I'll also buy copies sometimes for people and send them to them so that we can talk about the
Wow.
titles. So depending
Wow.
on what it is, for instance, and I have my 10. So just let me know when you're ready and I'll read them off and I'll also send them to you.
Amazing, amazing. So we are on this part of the show where Author Tomeria Jordan will name 10 books that would probably stay with her. Well, Author Tomeria, I like to count these numbers on you, and you're allowed to call the book, the author, and you're also allowed to talk about the ones that really click for you. I'm sure you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. So, aside from the books that I've shared in terms of the ones that I've authored, outside of that, I will say the number one book for me is the Bible. And the reason I say the
Wow.
Bible, the King James Version, that's the one that I read
Mm,
most often. But I've been doing some research on the etymology, not the etymology, but the history of the Bible. But I find
wow.
that it really has been a guide in my life, a source of light
Mm,
in times where I felt like, I might be losing my way or I want some clarity. And so I will say the
yeah,
Bible is number one. And then the book that I shared earlier is Fall Secrets by Candy Dawson Boyd. That one was
yeah,
the one that I mentioned earlier that inspired me as a youth because the young lady faced adversity, but she was able to overcome. The next one
yeah.
on my list is Produced by Faith by Devon Franklin. And that
Mm,
one really encouraged me to step out on faith because he had to make some bold moves in Hollywood. And when I look
mm,
at where he is now, if he had allowed people to dictate what he did, he may not have gone as far, but he trusts God and he had faith and confidence
wow.
in who he was and what he felt like God was leading him to do, even if other people didn't understand it. Um,
Wow.
the next book
We,
I have is
we,
Boundaries. So I
wow.
think I'm on number 4.
Four. Number four.
Boundaries is when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life
Yeah.
by Dr. Henry Cloud. And that was one that I needed to
Yeah.
read. I will
Wow.
say because I struggled sometimes with saying no to people. And
Yeah.
when you say yes to everything, you say no to nothing. And so I
Yeah.
realized that in order for me to be who God called me to be, I have to have healthy boundaries. So number
Wow.
5 is
Yeah.
Deliverance
Number
from Demonic
five.
Covenant and
Yeah.
Curses by Reverend James A. Solomon. And that book was a blessing because it really helped me realize that a lot of what we fight in this thing called earth is spiritual. And so it's bigger
Wow.
than what we may think, see, and or can imagine. And so getting that deliverance from those covenants and curses that may have occurred generations before us.
Wow.
I
We
have
have
5.
five. Yeah.
Yes, number 5.
Amazing. Fun.
And I have a few more. Number 6 is The Farming of Bones by Edwidge Danticat. And that book is one that's a little bit heavier, but I read this one surprisingly in high school. I feel like I was referred to this book by a teacher. But when I'd say that the book was powerful, it really
Wow.
talked about it was a fictitious book based on the genocides in Haiti. And there was a woman in the book, a
Yeah.
personal story of a woman who survived Trujillo's 1937 massacre of Haitians working in the Dominican Republic. But it really made
Yeah.
me think about the resilience of people's spirit. So it's a
Yeah.
historical novel, but it also made me think about the fact that her resilience in the face of so much adversity. And so it also gave me a passion to want to help people, is what I'll say. Um,
Wow.
Number
That's number
7,
six.
yes,
Wow.
sir, number
Seven.
6.
Amazing.
And I have
Yeah.
I
Go
have a lot
on.
more, but I'm gonna stop at 10. So
Yeah.
the next book that I have on my list, this one is called Jezebel. And the
Mm.
reason that this book, it's by Jacqueline Thomas. And the reason that I like this book is it's a powerful story about a woman who had the spirit of Jezebel in modern times. And it showed how that spirit meant destruction in her life. And although at times you feel like you may be getting away with things, she learned the hard
Yeah.
way that things aren't always what they seem. And so it was a
Yeah.
biblical story, but it was reworked as a contemporary novel, which was really, it
Wow.
was creative, and I will say I enjoyed that book because it was one I read a long time ago, but it was impactful to let me know early on that sin is not how you win.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Go on.
Okay, so number 8 is The Bait of Satan by John Bevere. That is a book that I read that helped me forgive and really understand what forgiveness is and why we need to forgive. So it talks about the tricks of the enemy to get us trapped in the snare of offense. And so I was really humbled by that book and making me realize that no matter what other people do to you, we have a choice too. So we have a choice how we
Wow.
respond to offenses in life. So it was really powerful about the power of forgiveness. Um,
Wow.
and then the next two books are business books that I've read that I think were really impactful in my life. And they were just a reminder about just what we do now and the impact, in the future. So the first one, the first business book, number 9, is Who Moved My
Yeah.
Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. And this is a really quick read, but I like this book because it highlighted the fact that what got you to where you are isn't what's going to keep you where you're going. And so it's an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. And
Wow.
I really love that book. So it was really powerful. And I read it when I started off in my career, and it's always one that I've kept and remembered. And the same thing with The Fred Factor. The Fred Factor by Mark Sanborn is a book, and it talks about how ordinary people can get extraordinary results just by being who they
Wow.
are. So you'll notice a
Wow.
trend here. A lot of what I've read and a lot of the books that have stuck with me are faith based, and they inspire and encourage confidence and resilience, which is my personal goal in life, to inspire the lives of others through service, dedication, and faith. So I feel like it kind of comes full circle. And all of those books have inspired me over the years and encouraged me to inspire others.
Wow. Wow. I'm so humbled. I'm just so humbled. Auto Tomeria, Jordan, you would pass for a room full of books. And I love the fact that you have spent so much to invest in your spirituality. So this will bring me to the point where I like to ask you, what would you say is the importance of written words, maybe from the Bible? What would you say is the importance of those words for any manner of person, irrespective of religion or color or beliefs, education background? What would you say is the significance of written words to any generation, any era?
That's a great question. And I would say the significance is I have looked at it as a guide, but one thing that I always tell people is that I understand that people that they say it's written by man, but it's inspired by God. I also ask God to show me what he wants me to see in the word through the power of the Holy Spirit. So I read the
Mm,
Bible and I look at it as a guide, but I ask God and the Holy Spirit to order my steps so I know what I'm reading and so that it makes sense, because I used to read the Bible when I was younger, but I didn't always understand it. So I would get versions of the Bible, like the New International Version or whatever version I could understand in layman's terms. But what I've come to know is the more I read, the more I understand, and the more I literally ask God to impart spiritual interpretation of what I'm reading so that it makes sense. And I find that I've gotten a lot more revelation in my years, in the recent years, because I have opened up myself to be able to hear what the Spirit is saying.
wow. Wow. Also, to Mary Jordan, I'm humbled. Thank you very much for showing up on the book show and sharing this depth of knowledge with us.
And thank you. I am humbled that you've even asked me to participate on your show and to come and speak to your listeners and the students who want to learn. And just know that the work you're doing is fantastic. And I thank you for doing that work and sharing with individuals.
Thank you very much, Tomeria. But before you go, I'd like you to leave your last words to the people who are dissatisfied, the people who are yet to carve a niche for themselves, the downtrodden. Please, what would be your last words for these people?
I would say my advice to anyone is to be true to you. And the reason I say that is the world needs you to show up exactly how you are. And not saying that you can't grow, because we grow as people. But when we think about everyone's purpose in life, together we can illuminate the path forward, igniting a brighter world for generations to come. So, what we do
Wow.
today will have impacts for generations. The people that we reach, the conversations that we have, the legacy that we leave. So I encourage everyone to know that you have a purpose and it's greater than anything you can probably think or imagine, and that you matter and your words matter, your impact matters. So choose wisely.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much, Otto. To Maria Jordan. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you to all of your listeners as well.
Wow, wow. Well, if you're going to be streaming this, we've been on to Otto to Maria Jordan on this special episode. And remember that the Guardian Cross podcast would encourage you to read one book, share review with a friend, and meet one author. Well, we've been on to Otto Tomeria Jordan, and I'm sure that you have so much to learn from our words of inspiration. And trust me, I have been motivated. So you don't forget to listen and share with your friends. Thank you very much. It's been your host, Smart Steward Udo. Thank you.
Thank you, Guardian Cross. Have a great day. And thank you to your listeners.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.